Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome to my module task. So let's get started. Growing up attending the French immersion program, the attempt to immerse students into the French heritage was really one of the goals and one of the aims of the program. And so the program tried to incorporate different resources and tools in order to enrich the students' knowledge and immerse them into the French heritage. Now, with that said, what they tried to do was to familiarize us with French literature in order to enrich our knowledge and of the culture. And so there's this one particular story that I remember really well back in grade 6 that was called The Chronicles of Norton. And so it's written by Christine Curdeland. And so let me present or provide more of a synopsis in order for you guys to understand some background about the story. So the author presents in a very comedic kind of way how the French people are viewed by foreigners. Now, in specifically this story, Curdeland is providing a perceptual view of how Norton, the main character, an American, sees the French. And so the reason why he is in Paris, France, is because he's an expat and he's living there for work. Now, what I want you guys to focus in the examples I'll provide next is that the use of diction of the author really illustrates the marginalization of the French by Norton. And as Gorski would say it really highlights only the stereotypical view of the French. So, for example, line 10, when he says, La France serait le plus beau pays sans, the word is sans, les Français lesquels sont froids et arrogants. So, France would be a beautiful country, sans, which means without, French people who are cold and arrogant. On another line, he says, Les Français sont des alliés, bien que nous leur ayons sauvé la mise. So what it means is this is providing reference to World War II when the French were a part of the Allied group, and they're saying here that it was the Americans. What Norton's saying is it's the Americans who saved the French during World War II. Now, I move on to line 19, and when he says, Nous autres, les Américains, n'aimons pas quitter longtemps notre pays, qui est le plus grand et le plus beau du monde. Okay, emphasis. Here he says, us Americans, we don't really like leaving our country because it is the biggest and the best country in the world. Again. And lastly, he says, c'est pour gagner de l'argent, il n'y a pas de meilleur que les États-Unis. And in order to save money and live better, you should be only living in the United States. You should never leave. Now, as a young learner, this story was, funny, educational, and somewhat, very interesting to somebody who was in grade 6. And so, it's very evident, however, that the choice of language, plays a key role in forming, perception. And so as a young learner, I remember, getting the impression of the French of, being cold and arrogant. Well, I don't really want to deal with them. Oh, wow. Getting another impression that, wow, the Americans saved the French in World War II. That's awesome. Another impression would be, oh, wow, the United States is the best country and the biggest country in the world. That's fabulous. So, you can see the kinds of impressions I would get as a young learner. Now, in this sense, what I want to provide is what we actually see from this narration. And so we see that there's an overlying dominant narrative. There's a dominant idea that actually the dominant group is dominating over another. So in this case, it's the success of that narrative is that what results in this domination is power and privilege over another group, which in this case it's the Americans over the French. And so in this sense, this domination is really linked to the narration and the discourse. So that's what I want to put into emphasis, and that was really provided in Module 2. And what I want to say is that although my teacher had no intention of fostering a vision that supports the interests of the powerful at the expense of the oppressed, as Gorski says on page 520, unfortunately this narration really reinforces to the learners the social and the political hierarchy that exists amongst nations. So that's the issue here. And so in this case, as a matter of fact, this attempt towards intercultural education is far from decolonization. Rather, it really does reinforce the aim of the neoliberal agenda. So, and this is where Dunn comes in, what we talked about in Module 2, that she says the following: those who seek to advance neoliberal education use language. Okay, and she goes on to say on that same page of 360, the use of symbolic language is a co-optation of the multicultural movement, multicultural education movement to advance a neoliberal and conservative organizational mission that in fact propagates values that endanger those who multicultural education seeks to support and protect. So, I mean, this is exactly what happened in this sense. Now, what I do, I want to kind of sum everything up and end my point and say the following, that the creation of a single story is based on biased perspective, and that we develop these perspectives and carry them unknowingly. So in these perspectives, shape how we read people, shape how we see the world around us, shape so many things. It has a huge influence on us. And so in this sense, we really need to be more critical of the world around us. Do we believe the narrations that we see in front of us? Do we believe stories on the media? Do we believe anything that's being taught to us? Because, I mean, as you can see, these stories exist, and they existed in grade 6. And so they do impact learners, especially young ones who can be influenced so easily. So at this point, I want to end on the fact that, as Gorski would say, we really need to make a shift of consciousness to prepare us for the shift from colonialization to decolonization. In order for us to provide more intercultural educational approaches for our students. So I want to thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed that, and have a great day.